Okay, here with me are Jess and Doug from the PICMG, and welcome to the fair and welcome to our booth. Nice to have you here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Jess, for a start, I would ask, PICMG is celebrating its 30th birthday
Yes.
this year, so congratulations. What would you consider the biggest achievements of PICMG so far?
I think a lot of it is about consistency, and we've been solving problems for embedded computing since the beginning. We have a set of policies and procedures that have worked well. That's led to over 57 specifications being ratified. And the momentum is as great now as it's ever been. So it's hard to pick one, but I think that consistency and the culture we have is probably one of the greatest achievements.
So that already shows it's not only about the technical level. Doug, I'd like to ask you, what kind of, how much do you have to do to get together the industry on other fields? I could imagine that's some pretty solid work too you have to do there.
Well, in some ways, yes. Onboarding new companies is a challenge, helping them understand how the culture of PICMG so that it continues, like Jess was saying. But in another sense, it's actually very easy because PICMG has been around in the industry for a long time, and we've had several communities of practice come to us and say, we've done the research and we want to bring our new efforts into PICMG. An example of that early on was the high energy physics community came to us, and they did that because they saw that we were a great organization to produce specifications in. We worked with them, and now there isn't a high energy physics lab in the world that doesn't use PICMG product to run their experiments. Another one more recently was the oil and gas community of practice led by ExxonMobil came to PICMG to create the InterEdge specification. So in that sense, it's kind of easy. You know, when you have a great organization, it kind of speaks for itself.
And to this year's Embedded World, you brought a whole bunch of new innovations and announcements. So I'd like to start with the InterEdge standardization initiative for real-time process communication. So can you tell us a little more on what the goals are and what has been achieved so far?
Yeah, so I'll start by what has been achieved so far. The first version of the specification has been ratified. So we're celebrating that along with our 30th birthday. So that's a big achievement. And what's in that specification, that's a specification that's been developed from the ground up with the needs of process automation in the, what the oil and gas industry considers far edge. So very close to the process edge, very close to the actual operations of the process automation itself.
So it's a pretty large-scale project, I can imagine. Jess, can you tell us a little, how can new cooperations with partners like DMTF, the Distribution Management Task Force, and what is the other, OPAS, help in this task?
I'm going to split up that question, and I'll talk about OPAF and the Open Group, and then allow Doug to discuss the work with the DMTF. But as Doug was saying, sometimes it's easy because communities of practice come to us. In the case of InterEdge, that is in collaboration with the OPAF, which is part of the Open Group, which is Open Process Automation Forum. So which Open Group is sort of specifications of specifications or standards of standards. Mm-hmm. And they spoke to a number of groups and said, PICMG has the technical expertise in the organization to fill this gap in what they're doing, which is a very large-scale operation, 140 companies working on it, Schneider Electric, ExxonMobil, a number of other companies that most people have heard of. They said, all right, we need this gap, so they're working with PICMG. So that, and then we set up an agreement so that our policies and procedures would be met as well as theirs. We came to some compromises, as we've done with VITA and other organizations. Doug has led the efforts on the DMTF collaboration, so I'll let or ask him to speak to that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the DMTF is another industry organization that's been working on standardization just slightly longer than PICMG. So we're celebrating our 30th birthday this year, and I believe they celebrated their 30th birthday last year. So we've been co-travelers in the embedded and computing industry for a long time. The DMTF focuses on management solutions, and if you think about the most common management solutions up until just recently were based on baseboard management controllers on server boards or in embedded boards and IPMI and that sort of paradigm. And with the convergence of internet technologies and operational technologies that really is being driven by big data analytics, cloud analytics, and Internet of Things, with that convergence, there needed to be another solution. So for PICMG, we approached the DMTF about several years ago. I think we started in 2018.
Yeah.
And we said, we'd like to collaborate with you in extending your Redfish specification and API to be more consistent with what we need in the industrial automation space and the embedded space. And they said, great. They knew of PICMG, we knew of them, and we created a work registry item that we would be collaborating. And well, what does that mean? So the DMTF has this really great application programming interface, and that's based on internet technologies, HTTP, TCP/IP, and normal queries and gets using JSON to describe the management layer. So you can interact with your platform management using IT technologies. And what PICMG has done just recently, we just submitted for work in progress a whole new set of schema or data models for what's needed for industrial automation and control. So sensors, effectors, and also new job models that support orchestration. Now, that's one way that we're working with the DMTF. It's formal collaboration, but there's also informal collaboration that's going on as well between PICMG and using DMTF specifications. The COM-HPC specification, which you probably heard about at the show, that specification also has an interoperability spec that is based on Redfish.
As you're already talking about it, can you tell us something about the new COM-HPC 1.2 design standard?
Yeah, do you want to take this or should I?
Yes, maybe you can. Yeah.
Sure.
Which
Either way,
updates
we can both.
we expect from it?
So the 1.2, people are commonly calling it the mini. So it's basically half the size of the A client. So physically, it's much smaller. It also has one connector, not two, but also has still a great density of I/O, and the pinouts are great, larger or more robust than COM Express, but really focused on different applications than COM Express. We also just released the design guide for that, and that's for the carrier cards, because in COM technology, you have a carrier card and then the module. The modules you can replace, they're scalable, you can change, but you need to have the carrier. And so that we make publicly available for everyone, and 1.2 is ratified and out. So if you go around on the show floor, you can see early modules have been released.
Yep.
So, and the only other things that the 1.2 design guide introduces are some of the things that was in the 1.1 spec, which was sort of a minor revision, but had like FUSA and some other updates. So,
Yeah, but it's an important step, I think, and it's already
it's huge.
starting
Well,
off,
I mean,
as you can see here on this fair. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what news can you give us on the current evolvement of the compact PCI serial specification? What's going on
that's
there?
really interesting. So the team is active right now. PCIe Gen 4, we want to incorporate that. We're trying to see how far we can push the current physical form factor in terms of connectors and whatnot, but great strides have been made. The other thing that's exciting is a derivative of that, which is compact PCI serial space.
Yes.
And so that ESA, European Space Agency, who's an active member, they're working on that. ESA has 26 sub-member countries in their agencies. The majority of them are now investigating and/or in early development of CPCI serial space. And now in North America, there's a lot of interest. So it's a robust, solid form factor and specification. And that is another, as Doug mentioned earlier, whether it's telecom, energy, physics, now we're seeing with space that,
Yes.
and the importance of adopting open standards. At the end of the day, have the multi-vendors have a standard that people can rely on, that's proven and developed by experts, from different businesses, organizations coming together. So that's...
So, Doug, what would you say? If I look around here, nearly everyone's talking about AI. But is this all, or what are your expectations for 2024? What are the biggest trends you see on the horizon?
Yeah, so if we look around at the show, I would say there were three trends that we see. It's three major trends. One is AI everything, right?
Yeah.
The second one is more compute at the edge. And in particular, we see machine learning and AI toward the edge, but moving more compute toward the edge of the network, whatever you define edge to be. And then the third mega trend that you see here is Internet of Things. So I think we're going to see, as an industry, definition of what we mean by those terms, right? Because those I would call those directions, but not technologies yet, right?
I'd say all three of those trends will profit very much from standardizations.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And PICMG already has specifications which will answer some of those needs. So if you talk about edge compute and AI, we look at COM-HPC is in all its various flavors can do that. We're looking at potentially any of our bladed form factors can fit in there. When we talk about IoT, the same thing, depending on where in the network you're at. You might have a bladed system, you might have a module. We also have the collaboration with the DMTF for more on the management plane. I think PICMG member companies and PICMG specifications are well positioned to address the emerging needs, and then over time, our member companies, if I've learned one thing over time working with PICMG, is they are incredibly, incredibly adaptive and flexible. And we will see new specifications coming out as market definition comes from these three mega trends out there.
Great times ahead. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here and for giving us these insights. Jess and Doug, have a nice time at the fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.